Oh my gosh. Oh. This is what I built a career of.
Hello and welcome to Drive. This is the show where we invite Chuck to join us in conversations about what moves Coastal forward. Today we're going to dive into the question around what does it take to build a career at a credit union just like this? And Chuck, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, good morning, Alan. Happy to be here. I'm excited about doing this series with you.
We're going to have a lot of fun for sure. And I think we're going to share what drives you, what drives Coastal, and movement's important. So I want to go back in time. I want to back up this entire machinery to 1979, which is right about when you graduated from college.
In 79. Yep.
I looked at your LinkedIn, Chuck, and I noticed there was 2 years that were kind of missing any data, that 79, 80. What did you do then?
Yeah, so I built furniture.
Tell me about that.
You know, what does that have to do with credit unions? So I started working when I was 16. I worked all through the rest of high school, all the way through college, to help pay my way through college. And during college, my best friend, his father, started making patio furniture out of treated lumber. And so he found a small warehouse, and I quit my other jobs, went to work there making this wooden patio furniture on nights and weekends, and we got into deck building and selling lumber, and you know, it wasn't a great job market when I got out of college, but it was fun. And then the recession hit in 1981. We decided to close the company, and suddenly I needed to find a job.
Wow, so there you were, a couple of years out of college, no job. How did you land in the credit union space?
I went to thought I might qualify for unemployment. So I really did two things. I went to the Employment Security Commission, met with this wonderful, wonderful lady. Went through my resume, and she told me, well, I know of a job you might be suited for. And she told me a little bit about it and something to do with a credit union. I had no idea what a credit union was. But at the same time, I had been offered a job loading trucks, and I was going to go back to school and get my MBA. I was going to do one or the other. And fortunately, kind of at the last minute, the guy I'd interviewed with the North Carolina Credit Union League called me and said, I'd like to offer you a job.
I did a little research around that era, and I brought you a gift.
Oh, awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh. This is what I built a career of.
Chuck, were you a computer guy? It was an Apple II that you started with, right?
No, I dropped the only computer course I took in college. We were using punch cards, and my program got spilled on the floor one day, and I said, this is nuts. I'm out of here. So I dropped the course. So when I was hired by the league, my boss, first day on the job, walks me over to a table, and there's this little computer, an Apple II computer, and a bunch of books and binders like this. This is the first electronic spreadsheet.
That may be the last copy that was
available. It may be the last
on
copy
eBay.
of it. Oh my gosh, I have not seen this in years. And he gave me about 10 minutes tutorial on how to start the machine and load programs and so forth, and said, I want you to build this model. I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks over the holidays. I want you to build this model and have it ready when I get back. I'm like, okay, great. It was like being thrown into a foreign world for me.
Tell us about that.
I got this machine. I got a row of binders like this. Instructions, how to do everything, so on and so forth. But I wasn't computer minded, if you will. And so I literally worked 8:30 to 11, 12 o'clock every day.
Is that midnight or is that lunchtime?
That's midnight. There was a little Greek restaurant 2 doors down that was lunch every day and dinner most days, and trying to figure it out. And, I went through Christmas, took most of Christmas Day off. I just didn't get it. It wasn't coming together. And midway through that second week, at like midnight one night, it clicked.
When you look back at that time in your career, you've gone from building furniture
Yeah.
to unemployment
Yeah, I did.
to someone pointing you into a career at a credit union.
Yeah.
What were the important takeaways for your career journey from that period?
You got to drive yourself. I'm one of the gifts I was born with was curiosity. I want to know how stuff works. I want to know how stuff is built. As a kid, I used to take stuff apart just to understand what do all these pieces and parts do. Now, half the time I couldn't get it back together and make it work, but I was kind of a tinkerer. And so I'm very curious. And throughout my career, I'm always studying something else. Get to a point, I've kind of mastered what I'm doing. What's the next evolution? What's What's going on over here that I can learn about and be better? A lot of employees get stuck in I can only do this. I really like doing this, and I just want to promote up doing that. I've always pursued opportunities, doing things I didn't know a thing about. And so if you look at my career of 3 credit union organizations over 41 years, I've had probably 25 different roles. And in most cases, I went and asked for it, or I built something that didn't exist because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to learn something different.
Chuck, in your journey, you've introduced now that you had people reporting to you. What was that like at first?
I was not a good man. For me, I was more about the math and the solutions and so forth than I was about the people. And so it took me through those early years to get comfortable with that interpersonal interaction, to be able to coach people and push them to be better, do more. That was a huge learning period, but I'm still learning.
If you could give direct advice to someone on the coastal pathway you took, what would be the takeaways that you would want to just share with them as they think about their career? Because not everyone's going to become the CEO.
No.
What are career pathway builders that you would champion?
So I think there's 2 types of people in the work world. There are a lot of people for whom a job is about putting food on the table, supporting a family, contributing to the family income. The focus of their life is family and so on and so forth. We need those people. We need to develop them as an organization. And then there are other folks who have big aspirations, whatever it is, and that are willing to invest their personal time in pursuit of those aspirations. My wife will tell you over the last 40 years, my average work week is probably been between 50 and 60 hours. Not always because that's what the job demanded, but because that was the investment I was making in myself, in learning and studying. And so I probably read 30 hours a week.
You read 30 hours a week?
Yep.
Wow.
It's part of the job. If I'm not paying attention to what's going on out there, how can I make decisions on how what's going out there affecting 600 employees and 300,000 members? inflation has created tremendous strain on our employees and on many members. And they expect us to, within our field of capabilities, to help them navigate that. And so if we're oblivious to that, how are we going to be effective in helping?
It seems like all along your pathway, you've been a learner.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been an initiator.
Yep.
You've been a planner and a strategist.
Yep.
So today we're in a building that was built a decade and a half ago. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it has been timeless. You know, Coastal had been kind of this sleepy IBM, Research Triangle Park, North Raleigh, a little bit in Cary, Credit Union. And Triangle was exploding with growth. And the leadership, Larry Wilson, my predecessor, his team, the board had made it before I got here to embark on this expansion here in the Triangle. And so we opened 13 branches in a little less than 3 years. This was the flagship. We hired a local architect to design our branch of the future. And we built 4 branches under this design, but it was built in a way to enable the evolution of technology. When we opened this branch, there were 16 employees that worked here. Today, we're no more than half that. There used to be 8 tellers back behind there all day long, 8:30 to 5:30 every day. And we had the traditional teller lines. And then we put in remote teller system. There are no tellers back there. Those tellers are sitting in one of our 3 teller centers. And that has been a huge accomplishment for the organization over time. But it is a very timeless branch.
I'd like to now connect that to, as you look back on your career, what would be the lessons that you learned from something that was a challenge and maybe even you weren't successful at? This branch has stood the test of time. Your career has stood the test of time. But I gotta believe that there's things you would do differently in the branch here. There's lessons you've learned, like you shared about changing how they interact with tellers, technology, and the change that that's brought to the industry. But what are the moments in Chuck's career where you say that was probably something I'd go back and change if I could?
Here's part of what I've learned. Timing of new ideas matters. I'll go back to my U.S. Central days. So in 1995, I'm at U.S. Central. I have a team that manages relationships with U.S. Central's 42 member owners. They push us at U.S. Central to help get them to the next level, to what's the new technology and stuff. And so, I started hearing about the internet in 1994, and because of my connections here in North Carolina, I found out that Coastal had, in conjunction with IBM, built a online banking system. So Coastal was the 13th institution in the world to actually do a financial transaction over what we know of as the internet. And then we were getting the industry, credit union movement, suddenly, how do we do it? How do we get, and there, there weren't a bunch of providers out there in the marketplace then. There were some new ones and so forth. And so at U.S. Central, we decided that we're going to try to build an internet banking platform for the movement, for multiple credit unions, get in the bill payment business. And so I was tasked with starting a new company, a new subsidiary, to help take the credit union movement into this new internet banking world. We didn't have an entrepreneurial foundation, if you will. So trying to do that within somewhat of a bureaucratic network and structure was a challenge. And we just couldn't get it done. Some of it was getting the talent, some of it was the evolution of technology. And the organization wasn't patient. Part of what I learned is new groundbreaking ideas, you can be so early that you're not going to get adoption. But patience to continue doing it is required in most cases. You know, the internet, you know, quite frankly, before it became as usable as it is today, took 10 or 15 years. I'm not a patient guy. You know, when I decide, hey, we're going to go do this, you know, my expectation is we're done in 2 years. And technology and ideas don't work that way. We're scrappy. We don't have $1 billion budgets we can throw at new ideas and not worry if we lose them. I've been a part of some pretty groundbreaking innovations, but these took 7 or 8 years to become real, mainstream, effective, and so forth. And so it takes quite a bit of perseverance to believe enough in whether it's where is the company going, what new thing are we going to do that's unique and different from everybody else. It takes perseverance to see it to the end.
Well, thanks, Chuck. I just want to thank you for an incredible day together, some time hearing from your lessons learned. I'm interested in if you were to share a thought around the foundations of a successful career, what have they been for you?
So as I think back to when it started, when my career started, after college, I only had 2 things to build on. Work ethic, and I have a very strong work ethic, which I got from my parents, who both worked as I was growing up, and knowledge. That's all I got. You know, I've spent 16 years trying to acquire knowledge through school, and I can work hard. And those 2 things have been the foundation of my career. I am not the smartest person in the room, but I am acquiring knowledge every minute, every hour of every day. And I am learning as fast and as much as I can. The world is changing every minute. And if I'm going to be relevant 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months from now, I've got to change with it. And that's all about acquiring knowledge and learning. And secondly, for me, I'm willing to work hard. I may not be smarter than you are, but I will outwork you. Those 2 things have really been the foundation of my entire career.
Well, I certainly hope we've inspired some careers. I'd like to finish every one of our series with just a lightning rod. I'm going to throw questions at you, and I want you just to respond. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What's the longest title you've ever had?
Senior Vice President and Chief Member Relations Officer or something like that.
What was truly your very first job, the first thing you ever did that you got paid for?
I picked tobacco.
And how long did you pick tobacco for?
For a whole summer. Every Saturday for a whole summer.
Where'd you go to college?
UNC Greensboro. Go Spartans.
What's the best advice you ever got?
Be nice to people and work hard.
Sum up your career in 5 words.
Rewarding, fulfilling, and made a difference.
I'm certainly leaving this series with understanding that learning's been essential for you.
Yes.
What role does it play for every employee?
I think it's essential. The minute we master something, what causes that something changes. And if we're not learning new techniques, new approaches, then our knowledge will get stale. I want a pay increase every year. Employees want a pay increase every year. But if I'm not more valuable, more productive, next year, the company loses. I get a pay increase, but I don't contribute. I'm not more efficient. I'm not smarter, whatever. And so we have to earn through productivity and knowledge this increase in pay that we expect. to be able to earn in the workforce.
Chuck, this has been an absolute delight.
It has.
With you. And for everyone else, we'll see you at the next episode.